Greetings, Vault Hunters all across the 6 galaxies. Welcome to the Bordercast. We are live at our usual time, Tuesdays at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific. I'm Mitsu.
And I'm Tessichka, coming to you every week to break down all things Borderlands.
We missed Hotfix's Applied last week because Tweety was so dang engaging with her passion for Bounty of Blood, so we have some catch-up to play today. 2 weeks worth of Hotfix analysis.
But don't think for 1 second that's all we have going on.
Oh, not at all. As always, we wanted to take 1 second to thank all of our new listeners on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and those watching on Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, and Steam, or later on the VOD on YouTube. If you're enjoying the program, we'd love for you to give us a big ol' like, follow, or favorite. There's really no clever reason this week. We're just kind of asking.
Please. It would be awesome. We'd appreciate it.
No, it would be super. It is helpful. I promise. I don't understand how it's helpful or why it's helpful, but it helps.
We just like to know you guys are listening. That's all. So we appreciate it.
It's like a hug. It's like a socially distant button clicking hug that I can live with, I guess. Guardian Takedown out right now, as many of you know. Hopefully you guys are enjoying that. We talked a little bit about it this past week. I can tell you that next week, when Ultimate Vault Hunters airs, Thick Fillet might bend your mind a little bit and convince you that Guardian Takedown, worth doing, worth enjoying.
I'm super looking forward to people getting to catch this episode because it's going to be really, really awesome. Thick Fillet is a wonderful member of the community. It was so nice to, we're there when we're filming it. And so to watch him interact with Liz and have her ask him all these awesome questions. And it's seeing amazing members of the community come forward and talk about why they love the game and how they're still so super excited about it. And they're so busy coming up with all these crazy builds and trying new things and testing new things. And it's very inspiring and fun to get to know these members of the community better via Ultimate Vault Hunter and their streams and their YouTube videos and our own show. It's really cool.
It's like a whole new generation of baby Vault Hunters growing up, and I love it because we get to see it happen. We get to take part in the process and listen to their new ideas because, boy, they have been off the wall. I think before we get into it a little bit more, I believe I saw our friend Triple G was on Twitter talking about how he beat the game with a character that was level 13.
Wow.
Yes.
So like a no leveling run, basically? Well, he had to level to 13.
Yeah. I guess as minimalistic as he possibly could do it.
Oh.
I read the tweet. I processed it in a certain way, and I'm not sure I processed it the right way, but it was my understanding that that's what he was doing, as well as he says he wants to try and put together a Mollywan takedown, true takedown run at level 10.
Wow. That's so cool. I entirely, completely believe he's capable of it. He sent me a build. So I've been wanting to play Moze forever, and I just couldn't quite bring myself to go back to the beginning and start a baby character just because I just never felt in the mood to do it, because it feels the game is so much harder when you don't have an OP tune, So, and so I just wasn't quite, I don't know. I was a little gun shy, but I really wanted to play her. My friends, I was playing with a couple of my mods this weekend on Sunday, and one of them was running a Moze, and she's so cute. And I totally didn't realize that she's Russian and I'm Russian, and it was just, I was like, I have to try a Moze. I'm going to make this happen. And literally 5 minutes later, I have in my inbox a really, really sweet build from Triple G, who happened to be listening. That's _G. If you guys want to check him out, _GZ on Twitch, _G on YouTube. Anyway, he made this really awesome Moze build that basically is super OP in Iron Bear when you're fighting bosses, is super, super OP outside of Iron Bear when you're mobbing. And literally all you have to do is jump out of Iron Bear and hold down the fire button. That's it. Never reload. Yeah, just keep shooting. You won't die. You never run out of bullets. You melt everything in front of you. It's incredible.
Sounds like the second easiest build in the entire game, with number one being AFK Zane.
Possibly, very possibly. But it's very fun still. Like it's not like you're just kind of standing around. Like the cool thing about AFK Zane, which I also am totally using to farm Guardian rank because I never did that and I need to do it. But I love AFK Zane, but I like this Mo's build so much because it's still very engaging. Like it requires you to aim and shoot, obviously, and run around and move around the map and catch other enemies. But like besides that, you don't have to stress so much about running out of ammo, about anything really, about going down. So you're just focusing on the really fun movement and the really fun shooting mechanics and the gunplay, which feels so good, and the beautiful graphics and effects, and it's very satisfying. It's insanely satisfying to just melt everything around you and never lose a single bullet. It's so great.
That's what Borderlands is supposed to be about, though. That's what was so enjoyable about 2, even though we had to kind of fudge the numbers a little bit when we were playing Salvador, for example. Well, that's not true. Towards the end, when we were looking at level 80 op 10, I would run out of ammo pretty consistently because you were facing mountains of health. But before that, it wasn't really that bad. And that's one thing that Borderlands 3 has. It's a little bit of a limiting factor that's kind of stressing me out a little bit. Because I like using the weapons. Yeah, a little ammo consumption issues. I guess Zane has it. I know that Flak players laugh at me when I talk about this because they're like, ha, 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 I got this talent right here. Just on critical hits, I just get all my bullets back. So don't not crit, forehead. And I go, oh, all right. Can I have some ammo as Zane player, please? I would like a class mod that maybe gave it back in addition to giving you additional power. It might make for a more...
Can't you use the cut purse class mod? So the cool thing about the Mo's build that I have now, obviously it can wreck face in Guardian Takedown, no problem. Sure. I actually haven't run a full Guardian Takedown, but that's only because I was running out of time with her. But it was very clear to me from when I jumped into it briefly off stream that it was very, very, very doable. Right. But anyway, I feel like in the beginning when people were doing Guardian Takedown, especially before they toned down the health and therefore the difficulty of mobs and stuff, people were running out of ammo. That was the biggest pain point. Aside from everything just being so bullet spongy, again, before the nerfs, now it's much better. But at the beginning, people were just running out of ammo. Like I remember Liz, who plays Fadeaway Flak, was just running out of ammo all the time. And what made it much better for people was the cut purse mod. And the cut purse mod was basically the mod that everybody used in order to get their ammo back. And the way that it works is you just have to do melee that like attacks at least one enemy. Like you can ground slam in the vicinity of an enemy, and it gets you your ammo back for that one gun that you currently have equipped. And it's great. And I mean, there are lots and lots and lots of this mod all over the place. It's a world drop, I believe, and so you can find it with different anointments on it, different prefixes, things like that. Cut purse launchpad is the one, that is the favorite though. That's the one where you literally just like jump and ground slam and you get a whole buttload of ammo, and it's fantastic. Artifact. Yes. I mean artifact. Yes, I'm sorry. I said mod. I apologize. I meant artifact. Thank you, chat. You guys are the best.
It's okay. I do it too, because it almost goes back to like Borderlands 2 when you're thinking in that kind of mod set too, where you expect those kinds of abilities and like bonuses to be on a mod and not on the artifact in that game. The artifact in that game was specifically like very damage oriented for the most part. Whereas in this one, artifacts are a little bit more sometimes quality of lifey, like the cut purses or Snowdrift Idol, where it allows you to slide super mega quickly. Like it's movement. There's percentages that'll give you certain buffs to things. Don't get me wrong here, but for the most part, it tends to be more about quality of life and like movement abilities as opposed to just raw damage output numbers. And yes, there are times when that can stack. Snowdrift Idol stacks with Zane's Violent Momentum, where if you're sliding and you shoot your gun, it's going to do more damage because you're moving even faster. So there's a benefit to doing that as a Zane player. That I believe I think Moxie, and I'm sure there are lots of other people, but that's the one that sticks out in my head because I think he's the first one I saw do it, but he might have not been the first person to do it. Don't get me wrong here. I watched him one day. He went after Captain Trant and he slid and pulled out his lob and fired one shot into Captain Trant. Trant There was no health bar move. It was health bars here, health bars no longer here. It was just gone.
That's so glorious. That's such a like satisfying thing to see, and I'm sure to accomplish.
Yeah. I never saw the health bar even move. It was there 1 second and it was completely gone the next. That's how fast it did it. And that again goes into he had to do a whole bunch of steps to make that happen. He had to throw barrier down, walk through the barrier, get his movement speed up, slide, fire the lob at the highest point of speed in that slide, so right at the beginning, to get all of those additional damage buffs to then melt Captain Tron. But he did it, and that's something that's fun. Like that, I like. Games need a little bit of jank. They need a little bit of like not super glitchy, but like fun little glitchy kind of things that we can take advantage of every now and again to like buff ourselves and put ourselves in different positions. Borderlands 2 had a lot of that. It had a lot of abilities that didn't quite work the way I think Gearbox had them intended to work back then. But we took advantage of that and made it work in ways that wound up being really enjoyable. Of course, I mentioned a lot. Zombie Maya, Immolate Glitch Maya was dumb, but it made Maya competitive, and that was fun. And of course, Salvador, everybody knows that his damage values switched over from different guns. Elements would sometimes switch over from different guns. So you would use an Ahab on one shoulder and the Pimpernel on your other gun hand, and you would just fire the Pimpernel and melt everything because you were getting explosive damage plus slag plus all the little pellet effects on a Pimpernel, which all could crit at one time.
Jeez.
And it was busted, absolutely, but it was fun. and that's kind of what matters. I think what they're doing now is a little bit more intended because it's not so outlandish that they're nerfing it outright, thank God. So it feels like it's okay. But back in the day, they'd probably take a second look at it, and I wouldn't blame them for it because it is heavy.
I mean, there are times when things are clearly not working as intended and then they fix them, and then there are times where it's not so crazy and it is very satisfying to players. And some of those things are 100% intended, and some of them are just, happy accidents of math, because there are so many layers of math in this game. We've, talked to the devs about it quite a bit, and it's incredible to me how many layers of math, how many different equations and different sort of calculations go into every single bullet that you shoot and every single thing that happens in the game. It's mind-blowing. And so sometimes happy accidents of math occur, and they're really fun and satisfying. And like my Moe's build that I played a bunch the last few days is a result of that kind of, and that AFK Zane build, and all of these crazy things are sort of, some of them are intended, some of them are happy accidents of math, but they're letting them breathe and letting people enjoy them, and I hope they stay, because I mean, I'm always more of a fan of buffing things than nerfing things in general. When people do that in video games, it depends on the game. Borderlands is a PvE game at heart, completely, pretty much, essentially. So there's almost no reason, unless everybody feels like they have to play a specific build, which right now is not the case. Like, you don't need one of these OP builds to run Guardian Takedown, Mayhem 10. You don't need like the craziest, most OP character ever. You can absolutely have the freedom to choose different guns, absolutely have the freedom to use different abilities, and it's so awesome. So like, why nerf things when everybody's having fun and there's a variety of things happening in endgame and builds going into endgame that are perfectly viable, a wide variety. So I don't know. I hope things kind of stay where they're at. I'm happy that they are staying where they're at so far.
The only reason I can think of, and it is fair, is that it is very difficult to come up with compelling and engaging challenges for players if everything is left to be obscenely overpowered. So I don't think nerfing things is the way to go about doing that, honestly. I think what needs to happen is, now that the game is in a really good spot and a lot of builds are viable at all levels of play, there's There is a melee Amara build out there now. There's apparently a melee Flak build out there now
Melee
that are
Flak,
viable.
really?
Yes, that are viable at Mayhem 10. Melee builds are viable.
I really want to check out Melee Flak. That's kind of intriguing.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. So my idea now is, remember how everybody said Guardian Takedown is too hard at launch, and everybody said the health scaling was a little too much, blah blah blah, and so they reined it in about 30%, and now it feels a lot better for the most part, on top of the buffs and adjustments that they had during phase 2. What I would then say is take that lesson learned and make the next takedown content harder, and then hopefully people, like, you'll see that a wide variety of builds will still be acceptable in it, but it won't be a challenge that everybody will be able to do first pass. Because I want people to be able to go in there and not struggle per se, but I want them to feel like
you do. You want them to go in there and struggle.
Not struggle's a bad word, because I don't want it to be frustrating. I want it to be fair. And that's the line. The line is frustrating and fair when it comes to game design. Because if something's frustrating, like you jump into a pit that requires you to make, or rather you have to jump over a pit that requires you to have precise timing, and you keep getting the timing wrong over and over and over again, that's frustrating. But if you jump over the pit a few times and you realize, oh, well, maybe I could jump to this spot over here and that spot over here, then it's fair. You realize that there are ways to utilize what's around you to make what's in front of you easier. And
So
that's just one idea about game design. There's tons. I'm not trained in that, but that's what I would see if I was going to make that happen.
My biggest fear for any new content is that it's bullet sponginess. And like I understand what you're saying about wanting to give people greater challenge and stuff like that. And I agree with it in the sense that a greater challenge is always like, having the option to have a greater challenge is cool. I wouldn't ever want it to exclude people. But more importantly, I wouldn't want it to ever just be bullet sponge hell, because that is just a miserable experience. You know, like I think tuning down the health and like the health of the mobs and stuff like that was the best possible thing they could do, and it was very appropriate, because it felt like I went into Guardian Takedown before the changes, and it was, I mean,
rough.
Forget having enough ammo. It just isn't fun to shoot the same enemy unless that enemy is like a crazy epic boss, which is different. But to shoot mobs en route to these bosses and have them be bullet spongy, like there are other games, I won't name names, but there are other games that I've played that are all about that, especially at endgame. And that's what made me turn away from those games, because bullet sponginess is just not satisfying. Shooting the same mob enemy for forever and not having them die. Like I would much rather have more enemies, like have a bazillion enemies in my face and have it be overwhelming, but be able to like, maybe not one shot them obviously, but like take them down with a much more reasonable time and then have to deal with more of them. It's much more satisfying personally to do that than it is to sit there and like shoot one thing for forever and not have that thing be like a crazy epic boss that's interesting and moves and you have to like move around them and stuff like that. Like I think the bosses in this game are so much fun and so interesting because they all have their own interesting mechanics, and they're just these beautiful, massive like experiences of a boss fight. But that's very different than having your mobs be spongy, right? So I don't know. I just would not want them to do that in the next takedown. I would rather them have the mobs be mobs and the bosses be bosses.
I think I agree with that. Just bullet sponging is not the way to go about making like a fair challenge. That's kind of a frustrating challenge because you're sitting there in front of one enemy, maybe two enemies, and you're just firing constantly at it. And it doesn't, like, you see the health move, but it's very small iterations of that health moving.
Yeah, it's just not fun. It's just not
you're just kind of like, ugh, I don't want to deal with this. Yeah.
It's boring to sit there and shoot the same thing forever and not, have a change happen.
Yeah, and there are people who do enjoy those challenges though, lazy data. So it's okay that they have the ability to toggle that on and
But
off.
that's why they have true takedown mode. That's
Right,
why
that's what I
true
mean.
takedown mode is so awesome, right? And I love that that exists in the game still. I still can't get over the fact that I've actually done that once. I haven't had the guts to do it again, but I think I might. I might try true takedown, guardian takedown with that Moe's build just to kind of see if I could solo it. I probably won't be able to, but I'm just curious, so I think I might try it tomorrow on my stream. We'll see.
Yeah. So, we'll see.
We'll see. I don't know if I'll actually survive. I'm not that OP, but even with an OP build. But either way, I mean, I love that that challenge exists, and I love that it is, you know, it's there for people like Lazy Data. It's there for people like Jolts and K6 and Triple G and Psychotic Wolf, who's hanging out in chat right now, and some amazing builders of amazing characters and crazy setups, and that's what it's there for, right? It's for the OP player. But a regular player doesn't lose anything by not doing that, right? They don't have to feel left out. Like I don't feel left out. I didn't feel left out that I had never done True Takedown. It was okay. I was still having a blast with the game, so it's fine.
It was okay. It is okay because you don't ultimately feel like you're pressured to doing it. You know, you could go do normal takedown and you know that you'll still get loot at the end of it. Will it be what you want? Maybe. But even if you did true takedown, would it really be what you want? Maybe. So you're really not losing out on too much. What you're really losing out on if you did it is maybe a couple more drops because it's scaled to 4 players. So even when you're by yourself, you'll get as much as you would get if 4 people were playing. But that doesn't necessarily guarantee that you're going to get what you wanted in the first place. So if you did scrap and scrounge and fight and claw and get all the way through, and at the end of it, you get your kill, you don't get what you wanted, you're going to feel a little bad about that.
I don't think, okay, so I feel like really awesome OP people like Moxie and Lazy Data and guys like that, they do true takedown, guardian takedown, or Molly 1 takedown, or etc. at that crazy difficulty solo because they can, and they're awesome, and they want that challenge. That's a really appropriate challenge for them. They're just better players than us normal humans, and that's wonderful and awesome. But like they can do that, and I don't think anybody really does true takedown for the loot. I don't think anybody actually does that. Even those guys do it for the challenge, right?
They do.
Somebody like me would do it for the bragging rights, basically. To like, even if I never told anybody I did it, for myself, I would know that I have managed to solo a true takedown, and so that's my like eventual goal to maybe actually be able to do that. But I mean, if I never do it, I'm not losing anything. I think loot is different from bragging rights, and I don't think that end game activities that are extreme challenges that most people maybe can't do, right? Like normally with my own builds, I don't think I've put together a build that could handle that at all. With some of the really cool builds that these players make, borrowing their builds because they put them out freely on YouTube and everywhere, and you guys can, if you just want to try one, check it out, do it, definitely. You know, you can go to that activity with that kind of build and make it happen, and you can say that you've done it. You're not really doing it for the loot, right? With your own build, you are doing things for the loot, and then being able to do Mayhem 10 level, just normal Guardian Takedown is plenty, I think. It's plenty challenge, and you know, I mean, loot is RNG, right? And so you're going to do the most efficient, you're going to put together the most efficient build, and you're going to do the most efficient activities to get that loot that you want, right? That's the way loot works. But I don't think the takedowns are ultimately, especially true takedown, is ultimately there as a loot thing. I think that's just there for end game challenge and bragging rights, right?
So I agree with that. I think if you beat it though, we should have a belt made, send people titles. You did it. You beat True Takedown by yourself. Here is belt. Make it nice and gold and shiny, and then have like a silhouette of Wotan or
can I have mine in blue and silver, please? No gold. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a really special belt.
I'm talking like I've already done it. We'll see.
Eventually. So,
I mean, to me, that's just like a thing to aspire to. I don't know if it'll ever happen, but it'll be a thing to aspire to.
You're doing it because you want
to. Yeah.
That's the point. We got real sidetracked off of that one. Borderlands Legendary Collection's out on Switch, as you know, May 29th. That happened. Magical. And of course, Bounty of Blood is out as well. It's really fun. I think one of the biggest things that it did for the game was everything is farmable in this DLC. Everything. So whatever you want, it is there. And you can go and get it. I remember seeing a laundry list of thank yous coming through the feeds, several different feeds that we have, of people just being like, all right, you guys listened. We love you for it. Thank you so much for making me be able to farm the Herald so I can use it on Moe's, and probably just Moe's.
Or the Flipper, or the Light Show, or the Root, or there's so many good guns in this DLC. It's amazing. Mm-hmm. There's so many good things in this DLC, and they're all worth getting, and all of the fights are really fun. I think my favorite fight is actually the end boss, the giant turtle of doom. But I like all of the boss fights in it. This whole DLC is amazing. I did play through, so I played through a little bit of Guns, Love, and Tentacles because one of my mods hadn't played it yet. Just yesterday, I believe, and it reminded me how much I liked the look and feel of that one. And somebody asked me last week, I think, which of the 3 DLC is my favorite, and I think if I had to pick one, it might be Guns, Love, and Tentacles, just for the Lovecraftian and the colorfulness and just the style of it. Plus, I love Gage.
Sure.
A lot. But they're all 3 DLC are so much fun. If you haven't played them yet, I super recommend. The Handsome Jackpot is literally Space Vegas, and there's some really awesome loot there. The Double Downer Shield that I always talk about is there. At the end of finishing the story, you get this quest that pops up. All of the locations in that DLC, there's so many, and they're all very different from each other because it's Space Vegas, so they can literally make it look like anything, and they do, and it's glorious. Guns, Love, and Tentacles is like, if you've ever played any kind of Lovecraftian or watched a Lovecraftian movie or anything like that, it's very much that, but with really beautiful, punchy, like cyberpunky colors, and it's just so well done. And the story is fun, sweet, and Gage is there with Death Trap, and it's just a great DLC. And of course, the most recent one, Bounty of Blood, is incredible. The whole mix of Eastern and Western and samurai and like gunslingers and everything, and jet beasts, and the bosses are really awesome, and the loot is really awesome, and yeah, you need a Light Show in your life and a Flipper. Those are my 2 favorite guns from this DLC. They are glorious. You need them. If you don't have them,
Light Show
go
is
get
very
them.
strong.
Yeah.
I don't know how it'll work on Flak, because I've just been focusing on making my Flak come up, and we'll talk about that a second.
Yeah, I'm super curious to hear about that.
I'm hoping that it winds up being really strong. I mean, we can jump into that now since we've finally gotten the important stuff out of the way. We've been talking about this a little bit. You've been focusing, I believe, a little bit more on your end game capabilities. And we're gonna get into that as well a little bit later on today too. But for me, I played a lot of Flak over the past couple weeks, and it's a character that I really haven't had a chance to play. I just was so focused on building up my Zane, and every time I'd get close to feeling comfortable with where my Zane was, there'd be a level increase, or there would be a new event going on, and you want to take part in that, and you want to do so on your main character. So I said, all right, cool, I guess I got to play Zane for a little bit longer. And I managed to sneak an Amara in there every now and again. I think she's still 53 or 57. I don't know which cap I got her to before I was just like, all right, I got to focus on Zane for a while. And I got a Mose to 17, maybe 16.
That's where my Mose was until the Triple G Mose of awesome.
And the reason I kind of like let poor Mose fall by the wayside is I really liked Iron Bear, but Iron Bear didn't feel really great.
He does now, trust me.
She does now, which phenomenal, but now I'm like knee deep in Flak, So I don't know what I'm going to be able to do about that. And this actually works too, because I play flak and I am a hack. So this works. I'm a flak hack. Here it is. That's the title of everybody who plays flak from now on. Your flak hacks.
Oh, God.
Sorry. I don't make up the rules. It rhymes, so it works. But that is what it is. So I was playing today on the Borderlands channel. Are you ready? I got a cryo radiation recursion off of General Trant.
Wow. That's kind of impressive.
It's so dumb.
Why?
I have point of order and have never used a recursion up until this point, except maybe once or twice doing a Guardian take with Zane, and I didn't particularly care for it. Maybe I used it wrong. Maybe I'm just bad at video games. It's probably both. But I grabbed it on flak. I started using it, and everything around me just dies. It charges up a shot. It fires, it hits something, then it bounces off and hits something, then it bounces off and hits something, and everything that it hits either dies or the bullet comes back around and kills it later. And because it's cryo, they don't move. And the only weakness that the recursion has is if something moves, the way the bullet trajectory is where it is at that moment when it reflects, not where it's going to be. So if everything's frozen in place and the bullet's bouncing back and forth between all the different mobs, everything dies. And it makes you feel great because I'm playing on flak, and flak is now level 38 by the end of the day. I want to say today. But I think I picked it up at level 32, 31.
Very nice.
It was great. It was absolutely fantastic. And it's just been fun to kind of learn how to balance fade away, how to play around having a pet, and just how to hit things really, really hard. Flak is just really fun for that.
Yeah, Flak was my first character that I actually started the game with. I thought I don't know why I didn't start with Amara. I knew I was going to end up playing Amara eventually, I think, and so I was like, let me start with a different. I don't know. Flak just came off as really cool to me. Plus, he had the pet, and I really wanted a pet. I need to go back, and you make me want to play. Your excitement over your flak makes me want to go back and like treat my flak with some more kindness. Pay some attention to him. He's a fun character, and having a pet in the game is just amazing. And I have a ton of stuff for him that I've actually picked up on the other characters that I've been playing that I've been kind of like squirreling away in the bank, in the vault. I always get those confused. Bank, vault. Both together. Anyway,
either or.
Yeah. He's a great character. Definitely. Is your flak fadeaway flak? Is it the fadeaway build? Okay.
Yeah, I'm kind of like doing a modified version right now of, do you remember on Ultimate Vault Hunters the other week when Lazy was talking about that ridiculous build that he created for flak?
Yeah.
I filled out the green tree appropriately, and now I'm kind of like working my way through the red tree appropriately, and it's just fun to go stealth in this game, reposition myself, and then fire. What I need is a good sniper rifle, particularly one made by Jacobs, or some sort of like really good hand cannon. We can call them hand cannons still, right? Even though they're pistols, because pistols are just lumped together. Sorry, that's the Borderlands 1 in me.
Well, so
Borderlands 1 had hand cannons and repeaters, right? And those were considered two separate guns.
Yeah, I mean, so pistols in Borderlands 3, and I think in Borderlands 2 also, there were the hand cannon types, the I'm basically an SMG types, and the kind of in between those two things types. And I love all of them. I love pistols in Borderlands. My favorite are the ones that feel like SMGs, because they're like SMGs, but they have more range. It's amazing. Yes. It's amazing.
My favorite gun in Borderlands 1 was always Pestilent Defiler. So I always like revolvers that hit hard and really, really fast. And the nice thing about Pestilent Defiler is it did that and also had corrosive. So you would just watch enemies melt in Borderlands 1 death fashion, which was gruesome.
Chad is curious if you have found and if you enjoy the complex route, which is a really awesome sniper from the new DLC.
Yes. So that's actually a really good question. I know you've been talking about it quite a bit, Tess. The complex route I have found on Zane, but I wasn't impressed by it. And that's partially because I was playing on Mayhem 1, so it's not going to be like, oh my god. But at the same time, it really, like, it bounces around a lot, and Zane doesn't seem to be able to take full advantage of all of its capabilities. Whereas if I was using Flak with fadeaway, you fire the complex route once, every single one of those projectiles, I assume, can crit. So if you hit something pretty big, like say Grave Ward, for example, just as a test dummy, and you complex root it, I can imagine health bars going away very quickly.
Yeah.
So yeah, I haven't had that chance, unfortunately, yet. But I hope to. I think I'll probably do the DLCs in true Takedown and kind of go from there. Yeah.
Wait, DLCs in True Takedown? You mean in Mayhem?
Yeah. No, I'm sorry, in True Mayhem. No, True Vault Hunter.
Okay.
True Vault Hunter mode. Yeah.
Gotcha.
That'd be crazy though. True Takedown DLCs.
That'd
4-player Mayhem 10.
That'd be kind of cool if they could add it as a difficulty or something. I don't know. I'm still holding out hope that we somehow eventually get the ability to reset individual DLCs to do them over.
Yes.
So that you don't have to reset like all of the quests in the whole game, but just per DLC. So like, let's say you want to run through, let's say you start up a new character at level 13 and you level through a DLC, and then you want to run that DLC again at level 60, and then you get 3 more points, and you want to run, like right now we got 3 more points, and like I kind of really want to run through the Handsome Jackpot and Guns, Love, and Tentacles with my OG Amara that I made. And I think I'm going to have to reset everything, and I'm sort of not looking forward to that because I just want to do the DLCs. Like, I don't want to do the whole main story again.
No.
So,
which means you just have to get to Sanctuary, and once you get to Sanctuary, it'll take you probably about an hour, 45 minutes, something like that to get there. But it's annoying. It's annoying.
Well, there's that, but also if I don't do the rest of it, then I can't like go farm in the entirety of the main game.
Oh, yeah.
Like I have to drop down. Yeah. Like if I reset it all on normal, but not on True Takedown, or not on True. Damn, I get those confused too.
Hey,
yeah. If I reset normal, but don't reset True Vault Hunter, then I can go and do the DLCs on normal. Still having to play up until a certain level, but I can do that, and then I can go do whatever I want to do, whatever boss I want to farm, or whatever thing I want to do. If I want to go test things in Athenas or whatever, I can do that in true Vault Hunter mode. So that is an option, but it would be really nice if we could just reset DLCs. Just say.
Yeah. That's the kind of jank that we're talking about, though, where it's like we've got to finagle and work with what we have of, all right, well, I want to be able to do this, but in order to do this, I have to never do this over here, just to make sure. So now I can get both sides of the game. And that's one thing where I kind of wish, yes, it could be streamlined, because that would be a little bit more wonderful. How was your past week? What did you do in the lands of bordering?
It was really good. Like I said, I was playing with a couple of my mods that hadn't done some of the DLC, hadn't fully leveled some characters. So I was just kind of chilling with, I think I was playing with my original Amara initially, and then Triple G sent me that boss mode. And I've just been loving her, because I definitely feel very like it's very satisfying to play her, because I'm still aiming and shooting and running and doing all these things, but I don't have to like ever worry about dying or running out of ammo. So it's just very fun. It's definitely easy mode, but it's like a really satisfying easy mode. So it's great. I can talk to chat, and I can, help my 2 friends, and kind of, it's really fun to play with someone that hasn't done the DLC before, because I've done it a bunch of times now, and I'm like playing it with them. I'm kind of experiencing it through their eyes, like hearing their reactions to like Juno and Rose and Toge in the beginning.
That was rough.
Yeah,
that was really rough.
Yeah, but then they both loved like, everything, the beautiful environment of Gehenna and that crazy final boss fight and everything in between. It was just really fun to kind of enjoy that with them. So that's basically what I've been up to.
Yeah. You've like run the gamut of all the fun things that you can do, at least with the DLC now. Wait, does this mean, did you finish the side quests?
I think I've done all of them. I think.
Okay.
I'm not 100% sure because, like I said, I was kind of jumping around, but I think at
Mhm.
this point I've done like 99% of them.
So if we start talking about cans of beans at some point.
Yes, it's totally fine. I have done that, and it was
Okay.
glorious.
that is the most important thing.
Yeah,
Because that quest
I
was
think I did
ridiculous.
that maybe first or second last Wednesday after the show that we did last because I was like, okay, I have to go through all these DLCs so that we could talk about them. And they were awesome. Like I'm glad you guys pushed me to do them. So
I am a little upset.
why?
And that is because in DLC 1, we got to strap a man to a rocket and fire him off into space. DLC 2,
Oh,
Guns and Love and
yeah,
Tentacles,
that guy.
we find out that he crash landed, and so we help him fire a rocket back in the space that he's still strapped to. I was so looking forward to Bounty of Blood having a crashed rocket and us helping him get that rocket back off of Gehenna. I wanted it. It was like a highlight side quest because the running gag of it was so good. And I don't know if it's not in there and I've just missed it somehow, or if it is in there and I missed it somehow, or if it's not in there and I'm gonna be really sad, but I haven't found it. And I was really, really, really hoping that there would be a crashed rocket where we could help a man follow his dreams to travel amongst the stars without any sort of breathing apparatus and yet survive, only to crash land on another planet that we wind up on ourselves.
I didn't miss him until you brought him up. And now I'm like, oh yeah, I wonder what happened to that guy. I'm now it's gonna bug me. Now it's gonna bug me forever until we see him again. I hope we see him again. Because you're right. We should be seeing him again.
Yeah.
I think they really wanted to do all brand new characters for this one, which they absolutely did so well. I feel like Rose is such a wonderful villain, and she's like Handsome Jack level of quality villain, in my opinion.
Yeah.
She's very nefarious. She's very devious, but you can kind of empathize with her a little bit. And she's just so badass looking and beautiful. And so you like her, but you hate yourself a little for liking her, but you still like her and you love to hate her. It's great. Awesome. I really hope she comes back, just saying. But I hope that guy comes back in maybe the Craig DLC. Who knows? Maybe we'll see him again. I want to see him again. I want to know what happened to him.
A very important question before we move on to hot fixes of Plaid. How do you feel about being the new McSmugger?
I'm so sorry. I don't know what that means.
What? You didn't do that one?
Oh, yes. No,
Legend of McSmugger, yeah.
Yes.
And then it turns out it's like the Overlook Hotel. It turns out that Jack was always there the whole time. It turns out you were McSmugger the whole time.
Yeah. Okay, I remember that one. I think I actually did that one before we talked about side quests, so I had completely forgotten. I'm sorry. But yes, that one was cool. That one was cool. I liked the way you had to kind of traverse through all these crazy locations.
Yeah. There was a lot of like climbing going on, especially during that one. And yeah, a lot of verdict. That's one other thing that they really emphasize in this DLC. And that's why I'm kind of glad that they have the map system they do, but they might need to do little things on the mini map that indicate teleporters, at least once you discover them.
Yeah.
That way you can see, all right, this teleporter leads here, that teleporter leads there. Because the map as it is now is great when you're looking at a 3-dimensional plane. However, now that you've also introduced the ability to instantly move from one section of the map to the other, if you don't have some sort of indication where each one leads, you're kind of at a loss to figure out where you're going and how you're supposed to get there once you've already gone through doing the process of the story.
I have gotten super lost because of this. This is very true.
Yeah. And it's because it takes people a little time to learn maps. And when you haven't quite learned the map yet, it becomes a little frustrating to try and figure out how you got back to a place you've already been to.
Yeah. That particular side quest was pretty easy to kind of figure out where you needed to go next, though, because it kind of led you. I liked it. Like, I really liked the jumping, and I liked the change of scenery and kind of movement through a different space. I love more eye candy. Like at the heart of it, the more eye candy you give me, the happier I am. And this game is so full of it. Like literally, it's just everywhere, and every new location is like, "Ooh, my eyes are so happy." It's great. So I love that. That was a fun quest. Thank you for reminding me about it.
Yeah, that one really stuck out as one of my favorites. So, all right, so let's do this. We've been now 2 weeks overdue. We've got 2 weeks worth of hot fixes. Some of them are really important, and they discuss certain things that we really should talk about a little bit. So, with that in mind, without further ado, 46 minutes into the show, it's hot fixes applied. we get on some tangents today, but they're really important ones.
They're good tangents,
you know? Yeah. So on July 2nd, they released a hot fix, and they enjoyed seeing the community reactions to Bounty of Blood and all the changes that came to Mayhem mode, including Phase 1 and Phase 2 and everything pertaining to Guardian Takedown. The team has been enjoying and laughing along with all the quirky and different builds that everybody has been playing, such as Melee Flak, and sharing with everybody in the community. They're happy with the amount of diversity overall in the gameplay, so everybody seems to be coming together and enjoying it. And their general sentiment and hope is that if it hasn't encouraged you already, that you revisit some other skills, builds, and gear that you might have otherwise thrown on the scrap heap for a while. And due to it still being very early in the lifespan of these changes, even a month is still very early. People will be dissecting things. There are still things in Borderlands too that we dissect sometimes and find out, oh wow, there's a new way that we could have done this. You know, they're continuing to watch the feedback as a result and see what the community is doing before reacting rather to any builds that might appear more overpowered or threaten to limit what players feel like they can play. So that would be the overpowered and underpowered aspects of how they address build diversity. I think we're in a good place, at least for now, based on the hot fixes to follow. But for the most part, we'll break it down and make it real quick. The first and most important one that I really wanted to check off as a box: re-enabled Mayhem modifier, boundary issues, and Drone Ranger. I don't know if this is actually a good one or not, all things considered. Drone Ranger's tough.
I like Drone Ranger. I like Drone Ranger much more than I like Buddy System.
Sure.
Because Buddy System makes things immune, and you can't phase grasp it, and it's tiny, 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 and sometimes it hides behind its immune buddy, and so you just can't like shoot it, and so like other things are shooting you. Like I end up phase grasping some other random enemy, or that guy, the buddy system of the random enemy, like the actual big buddy, and then just like trying to get behind the enemy to get the buddy system, and it drives me pretty crazy. Drone Ranger, I don't think is that bad at all. It's easier to kill them, and they're just healing. So what you can actually do is you can focus on the big bad and kill the enemy, and then focus on the drone as it tries to fly away, and it's like 2 seconds to kill it. But, you know, you don't have to worry about the drone before you kill the main enemy, especially if you're super OP Moes. You know, you're just gonna wreck both of them in like 2 seconds, and it's no problem. But even if you play like my totally not OP, very happy and good and normal Amara handles it just fine. So I like it. Yeah, and they're really good for getting second win. That's a good point. Somebody in chat just made.
That's a very good point as well. Prevented the camera from resetting after closing photo mode in a vehicle in the campaign add-on for Bounty of Blood. So if you like taking pictures, this is kind of a good one for you. You know, as an aside real quick, I know how much you love the scenery and everything in Borderlands. How often do you take advantage of photo mode?
Not that much, but only because okay, so I go through phases of wallpapers. And I went and I got a whole bunch of wallpapers like a while back. I think when Guns, Love, and Tentacles actually came out, I went and grabbed a whole bunch of screenshots of that. And so I used it then. And I originally used it when the game launched in Promethea because it was so... Promethea is like... I mean, I love Necrotafeo also. I love all the areas. But Promethea is just very cyberpunky and I love the feel of it. So I was trying to grab myself a bunch of different wallpapers to use. And then... like I was happy with those, so I kind of was like, I'm just gonna play the game. You know what I mean? And so I haven't actually used it in a bit. But there's going to be a time when I need new scenery, new wallpapers. We'll get there probably soon. I'm really curious to see what the new DLC is going to look like, because like the color image that they teased us with just makes me think that it's going to be so out of this world and crazy.
Oh yeah.
But Gehenna definitely has some really gorgeous locations too that are wallpaper worthy. So we'll see. Maybe some of them will make it.
And the filters that you can use are really nice too. So even if it's something that might not necessarily jump out at you at first, when you mess around and put on like some of the more high contrast filters or some of the ones that make it look a little bit more old timey, like there is an opportunity for you. And then you can also what is it? I think it's the vignette is what they call it, where you like close in, so it's got like the black outlines here, and you can focus in on something like that. It's all a lot of fun to use. We're going way back here. There was actually an event way back in the day. I don't know. Do you remember it?
The photo contest?
It was the screenshot challenge. Yeah, the photo challenge. Yeah.
That was like a community event, wasn't it?
I believe. No, that was an official event.
Oh, really? Oh, cool.
Because I think Randy retweeted it, and there was like a hashtag like BL3 photo op or something like that.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was a really cool event. And some of the winning
awesome.
screenshots were really cool.
Yeah.
Addressed an issue with Amara the Siren's glamour, sometimes not respecting the enemy's allegiance in campaign add-on Bounty of Blood. Addressed a concern that the Gunner class mod Megaton Minesweeper, like that name, was sometimes spamming errors in the game log, and addressed various grammatical errors, like the one I just had right there, through Borderlands 3. This hotfix also updates descriptions on some skill cards for Mose the Gunner to make it more accurate to what was happening during play. Basically, just changes to Mose's general information so that it's represented the way it's actually playing in the game, as opposed to the way that it looks on the card. I'm pretty sure that was encouraged by the community as a whole, because they were probably like, hey, the math on this is wrong. And like, no, the math is right. The text is wrong. So they're going to go fix that now.
Yeah.
Which I imagine that's probably an easier fix. Yes. How do you feel about July 9th?
July 9th was pretty light on the fixes, wasn't it? It wasn't too crazy.
It was, but there was a big one. A big important one to talk about.
Patched a hole in the atrium of the Bounty of Blood campaign add-on to prevent players from busting through the wall and seeing the other side. I did not know this was a thing.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. And addressed a reported concern that some damage effects from Lucky 7 sometimes did not function after exiting Iron Bear. Lucky 7 is a gun that I have gotten like a gazillion times because I spent a lot of time in that wonderful, glorious claptrap pile of claptraps.
The scrap trap pile?
Yeah, the scrap trap. Thank you. I couldn't, for some reason, my brain wasn't working for a moment there. But yeah, the scrap trap pile. I have gotten so many Lucky 7s from that because I've been using it to farm for Guardian rank. It's a great farm for that. But I don't actually find myself using the gun that often, just because I tend to prefer the more high rate of fire, kind of like spam shoot automatic fire weapons. And so I just didn't even realize this. I never used it on my Mose. Maybe I haven't spent enough time with Mose. That's probably why, because I'm still new to her. I'm still a baby Mose.
I want one on Flak. I think Lucky 7 would probably be really good on Flak too. But the biggest and most important one is an addressing of a bit of a problem. Some players have expressed an interest in shields that do damage to enemies being scaled with Mayhem, which would be a great idea. It would make shields like the Impaler more viable since it's doing respectable damage to Mayhem 10 enemies. And they're looking at adding Mayhem scaling to these shields in a future update. But while assessing that, they noticed that the change recently allowed Mayhem gear to spawn in chests and vending machines that also applied to the guns that spawn with enemies. Which means that there were Mayhem 10 enemies that were doing Mayhem 10 damage to us.
Yeah. So
that's a problem.
I didn't realize what was happening when this was happening to me. But people mentioned it. And I mean, so this Moe's build that I've been playing is just so OP that I still kind of powered through it, but she went down a couple times. And I was like, Triple was hanging out with me at the time, and I was like, Triple, what's this? I actually died. And he's like, mayhem 10 damage. It's fine. You'll be up again in a second. And I was. And he's like, just make sure you get back in Iron Bear so you get your bonuses again. I was like, all right. But yeah, I didn't understand what was happening when it was happening. I thought I did something wrong, which is entirely likely and possible. It might not even have been this that caused me to die. But I have heard about this a little bit in the community. And so, yeah, I mean, if you want a little extra challenge, but it's something that isn't exactly how it's intended. It's not working as intended, so I'm sure they'll figure it out.
And they said that this isn't something that they initially intended, and they are monitoring to see how how this could be affecting difficulty at higher levels of mayhem, and therefore will be looking into how they can address that in a future patch. So we'll see if that's addressed this week, next week, or further down the line, whenever that happens to happen.
Yeah.
I will say this much. The way that you talked about it just now, and the way that the community in general has been talking about it, even though it sounds, when we read it out loud here in the hotfixes notes, it sounds like a big deal.
I don't think it's that bad.
Right. It really doesn't seem like it's that bad in the grand scheme of things. It's an annoyance,
because I don't think
it's not stopping you progressing, right?
I don't think it's applicable to bosses, right? Is it?
I don't believe so. It's because it's only mobs that would be spawning with guns that would be likened to what we have. So somebody was suggesting maybe that's why Rose was one-shotting. I don't think it would apply to Rose per se, because Rose doesn't have a gun that drops in the game. It'd be like, we could go back to Borderlands 2 and give an example. It'd be like if G was doing mayhem 10 damage with his rocket launcher, because that could drop. You can get the Ahab, right? But Rose, you can't get Rose's pistol. So it shouldn't, if we're reading this correctly, apply in this particular situation. Just like Grave Ward. Grave Ward is spewing corrosive acid on you. It's not using a gun to shoot you with its big mallet hand and big speary hand.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why it's different.
I mean, I feel like, okay, so I don't know if this is a popular or an unpopular opinion, but I feel like if you can output enough damage, which that most build, maybe this is why I didn't feel it so badly. It did seem like I was going down a little bit more often on my Amara when I was playing my Amara at Mayhem 10, but like only a little bit. So even with her, I feel like if you're outputting enough damage to take down these enemies quickly enough, them doing more damage to you isn't going to stress you out. Because even if they take you down, like I said, like I went down with that super OP Moe's and I immediately got back up because I was outputting enough damage to take down that enemy quickly enough, right? I would rather have that kind of challenge, much rather have that kind of challenge than have it take forever, like I said before, to kill the enemy. So like if they want to add a greater level of challenge in endgame, Mayhem 11, whatever, anything like that in the future, True Takedown, next Takedown, I would rather have either a mode or a Mayhem level thing where the enemies output more damage, but I can either figure out a build that can out damage them, that can withstand the amount of damage they put out. It would actually inspire more interesting builds while keeping the gameplay really fun. I think where it's at, even though this wasn't intended to work this way, it's really not that bad. It's maybe a little bit greater of a challenge, but it doesn't feel bad at all. It doesn't feel like I'm going down constantly or anything. It's just fun. Like, oh, I can actually go down. I've got to be more on point. I've got to do a better job of aiming and things like that. I think this is a better direction to go with difficulty than just making everything have more health, because that's just honestly very boring and not satisfying. And this is much more interesting because you can build to combat this. You can either up your damage even higher to kill them more quickly, or you can, slide your damage down a little and make yourself more survivable if you need to, whatever you need to do. There's ways to combat this As long as you're not constantly dying because they're just hitting you so hard, like all the time, you know. I feel like it's a balance, but it's a good direction if they wanted. In my opinion, it would be a good direction, a cool, interesting direction if they chose to go this way.
I agree, and the best way to kind of like feed into that a little bit more would be to buff shields to Mayhem 10, because then you'd be taking Mayhem damage from certain sources, so you could have the shields then come up, and then you could also then justify better buffing the amount of damage that shields reactively could do as a result. The only thing is then they probably would have to buff boss damage to Mayhem 10, and I don't want it to become the arms race that was op levels. Op levels became use something that got your health back very quickly or you died. It was the race to Healthgate is what it was.
I don't think they should nerf damage of weapons, because that would nerf our damage too. I don't want it to ever take any longer than it already takes to kill things. I think the time to kill needs to be where it's at now. It needs to be pretty darn short for things to be satisfying, especially in a game that is as fast-paced and just like fun, and like in a game where it's all about the movement and the gunplay, and those two things are so satisfying and awesome. Sitting behind a rock or your shield or just standing there and trying to face tank while you're like shooting the same enemy forever, it's not, to me, is not at all what I want to be doing. I want to be like popping off enemies and popping off another enemy, and like if it takes me 5 seconds or whatever to kill an enemy, that's a long time already, right? I don't want to one shot everything, but I definitely don't want to be shooting the same thing for any longer than that. So I don't know. I think it could be an interesting direction to go, as long as we can still build higher damage stuff to combat it. Like if you can kill everything quickly enough that it can't hurt you and take you down, you're golden.
What a game.
Yeah.
Oh, we have talked so much about just general game theory today, what we did, and just addressing these hotfixes that we're actually out of time this week. That was a whole hour, and that was not what we had originally planned to do, but that's okay, because we can always push some of the other stuff to next week.
Yeah, and it was good. I think it was a good end game conversation. There's some things that have happened in the game, like I said, happy math accidents. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know if everybody would agree with me that things hitting you at Mayhem 10 damage is a happy math accident, but in my mind, it actually kind of can be. I think it's a good way for them to see, can we measure up to that. And I wouldn't necessarily want it to be like everything hitting us at Mayhem 10 damage or everything hitting us so hard that we're just dying all the time. Like I said, you can take it too far, but going this direction a little bit makes it kind of an interesting thing to try to build towards and build against, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I love these kinds of conversations that happen. I love talking about cool directions I'd like to see the game go, the things that I really think the game is already doing so right, and things that we've been having fun with in Endgame and in general.
Sure. I think we can have a pretty good discussion about where the state of Endgame in general and what really constitutes Endgame is. We can have like a part 2. So we can say, all right, this is what we like see as Endgame, but there's a lot more, I think, to it that people will say out there. And we can talk about that next time, as well as a few other things that we have in mind. So with that, thank you everybody for joining us. Bounty Blood is out now. Play it. We literally just gave you like 37 different reasons to. What do you want from me? What is it? Yes. Guardian Takedown. Still waiting to challenge players. Make it happen. Borderlands Legendary Collection. It's on the Switch. I know you have one. We all have one at this point. Get it. So much Borderlands. Tess, you want to tell them where they can find you?
Twitch.tv/Tessachka, like it says right here, or just Tessa, CHKA, if you are listening to us on any of the awesome audio platforms, and Tess Games on Twitter and Instagram.
Yes. And for me, of course, as always, twitter.com/Mitsu Show, MITSUSHOW, and twitch.tv/Mitsu, MITSU. Big shout out to my friend John Fisher. I actually was just on his podcast talking about what we do here, as well as many other things. You can check him out. I think his Twitter is like John Fish TV. Listen to it on Spotify or iTunes. I think it's called The Gaming Chair. Yes, The Gaming Chair podcast. I talk about what we do here on the Bordercast, break that down a little bit. My relationship with my wife and how we met, GCX, charity, and a whole bunch of other fun things related to and tangentially related to everything that we do. So if you're interested, make sure you check that out as well.
You guys, thank you so much for joining us. If you're enjoying the show as much as we love doing it, please make sure to subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. Make sure you hit the follow button if you're watching on Twitch. Definitely feel free to tune in via Steam again. We're here every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern. Also, Mitsu streams on the official Borderlands channel every Monday and Tuesday at 10 a.m. Eastern, and I stream on the official Borderlands channel every Monday and Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern, same time as Bordercast. And we can also be found on Spotify, SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn, Stitcher, Google Music. I think that's it. For podcasts, for audio only. You guys, thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. You were all awesome, awesome, awesome rock stars.
Yes, indeed. So, on behalf of see, you can tell where my brain is at. It's all over the place today. On behalf of Tess, myself, the entire stream team, I'm going to pause there because there's dramatic effect. We're getting there. And everybody at 2K, Gearbox, everybody who's been involved in making this wonderful game that we get to share and discuss with you every single week. Thank you so much for joining us. Now go forth, make some mayhem.